different possible futures predicted along the path capitalism is taking the world down, some of which are positive. These constitute the technologically super-advanced utopian possible futures, where via innovation, automation, and superabundance, humanity is freed from the constraints of menial labour and other struggles and dangers of the world, allowing for optimal human flourishing and contentment. Other possibilities for this developed civilization constitute much bleaker futures of scarcity brought on by the exhaustion of natural resources and suffocating over-commodification of absolutely everything. Blade Runner 2049 gestures at both these sides of the coin, containing different elements of both of those possible futures, while decidedly depicting a negative, dystopian world, focusing more on the costs of capitalism than the benefits, more on the ways the system could oppress us than free us. Any system pushed to its extreme can become overbearing and unmanageable. This principle can be applied to all sorts of territories, among them economic systems, and Blade Runner 2049 highlights this reality by levelling a satirical take on the dark side of capitalism, drawing back a curtain to a murky destination of the world under a progressively amplifying capitalist trajectory. There are various different domains of civilization, environment, and reality more broadly sucked up and transformed by the economic force of capitalism. A force so titanically transformative it could be deemed an elemental power. The first result of this transformation I'll now discuss is the ascension of corporations to the throne of ultimate civilizational dominance. In the film, corporations are omnipresent, seemingly entangled in every facet of civilization. Corporations are implied to be the most powerful institutional players in society. The head of the Wallace Corporation, Neander Wallace, deploys military-level force and what are effectively private soldiers to acquire what he wants, the miraculous child of replicant Rachel, by force, his underlings murdering opposition without hesitation. While those working for the Wallace Corporation carry out their crimes secretly, and even murder people in the police force in the process, implying the people who make up the company are beholden to the law and would face consequences if found out, they are still powerful and resourceful enough to outflank the police, and the Wallace Corporation is never shown to meet any legal recourse for these crimes. Neander Wallace is depicted as a king of sorts, residing in his brutalist, minimalist, stone castle-like building, isolated from the masses and the broad consequences of his diktats. He uses religious language when talking about himself and his creation of replicants, placing himself in the position of God. An angel should never enter the kingdom of heaven without a gift, he proclaims when love enters his chambers. This comparison he makes of himself to God is not only indicative of how Neander Wallace creates life, manufacturing millions of replicants, but also of how he is effectively the most powerful person in society, ruling over everyone else with that disproportionate power. He is a symbol of the corporate stranglehold on the world in a more generalised sense, standing in as a singular dramatic figure to represent an entire system. The masses are at his mercy. His company exerts military levels of force in service of obtaining his goals, devolving this power to one of his replicants, Love, so she can do her job. Love using this power to unleash horror from the heavens, to smite those in the way with trivial ease. The products of capitalism, which Love is, and Kay for that matter, are shown to act with a level of autonomy in this regard, while directed by authorities above them, it may be. It's as if capitalism is a spiritual force which has breathed life into the physical, and that new life is smothering the life which came before it. While protecting Kay so he can do his job in finding the child of Rachel and lead love to that child, love rains missiles from the sky on hostile outlanders attacking Kay. She does this remotely, in a dispassionate, cold tone of voice, languid and relaxed in a chair while having her nails done. It's a striking image at one end of a juxtaposition of the two extremes of the economic divide, those with all the money and power and those with none of it, both depicted as violent groups, but the poor showing a brutal, savage kind of violence, and the rich a sophisticated, tactical, targeted, more powerful violence, dressed up behind an opulent veil of civility and respectability. In this capitalist dystopia, industry is depicted as having culturally replaced God in these various ways, as being the supreme arbiter of life and death, as acting with enough elemental force to shape the environment and broader reality, and ultimately as ruling over existence, not only existence on Earth, for this capitalist power has spread out into the stars, colonising other planets. It may be fair to assume transforming them into the same dull, dead husks as has been done to Earth, subjugating them and all there to the will of capitalist expansionism. Territory claimed by capitalist expansion is nature. Growth maximization is a corporate imperative built into the incentive structure of large-scale companies. Blade Runner 2049 shows the logical extreme of this growth ethos, depicting a world where capitalism has expanded to a near ultimate point, enveloping everything and killing all nature which came before it. In place is erected a dystopian horrorland dominated by concrete, industry and advertising in the dark, oppressive, suffocating cities, and in less populated areas, leaving the land barren and desolate. The film depicts a future where the Earth has been plundered of its resources, leaving it a dull husk. A famine was averted by Neanderthalis's synthetic farming initiatives. There is no trace of greenery, every plant and most of what's natural replaced by artifice. Digital images are present everywhere, glowing on the sides of buildings, brand names thrust in one's face from every direction, giant advertising holograms looming over the citizens of LA in a domineering, titanic, ghostly fashion. This process of smothering nature is more eerily extensive than just forcing a transformation of the Earth. The process does not only encompass the extinction of plants and wildlife, but the film also depicts the initiation phase of the annihilation of natural human beings. The process cuts that deep, transforming everything in its orbit. The species is set to be gradually replaced by artificial duplicate humans. First, these duplicates were made as slaves, to be contained and used like tools. Now they have made their way into society, and there has been the first discovered case of a replicant replicating, birthing a child. At one point, Neander Wallace is talking about how, since he took over the company, the Wallace Corporation, formerly the Tyrrell Corporation, he makes good angels now, when before him the company made bad angels. He says because of his good angels and his broader corporate initiatives, humanity has expanded to 9 planets. This is an amazing accomplishment. Yet he then goes on to say that a child can count to 9 on fingers, and that we should own the stars, showing his desire for exponential expansion. The current, already very broad gains are not enough. Everything in the universe, at least all habitable worlds, must be engulfed by an industrial empire of expansion. We need more replicants than can ever be assembled. Millions so we can be trillions more. We could storm Eden and retake her, states Neander Wallace. This final remark shows how deep his power lust and greed runs, displaying an arrogance and tribal need for conquest of everything, presuming to have reached the level of power necessary to claim back the paradise from which humanity was banished by God for disobedience and betrayal. He wants to rip the territory of God away and claim it for himself, actively seeking to place himself on God's throne. Building on what was mentioned in the previous section, another facet of the assault on nature present in the film is the dehumanizing effects of capitalism, shown in various different overlapping regards. The first being the lack of regard for humanity, shown in the fact that industry has robbed them of the enjoyment and nourishment nature provides, a free resource which no one has exclusive claim to. Now nature has been killed, and the entire environment corporatized. Unless the treacherous barren outlands are preferable, there is no escape from advertising or concrete or fumes now. But beyond that, the term dehumanize can be applied in a slightly more extensive way than normal, because this dehumanizing process is not only having the effect that word normally implies, but also human beings are being supplanted. The world is being dehumanized. Unintentional though it may be, taking place is a literal replacement of human beings with corporate manufactured products, replicants and joy models, etc. We can consider joy models to be replicants of sorts themselves. The very creation of these replicants shows a lack of acknowledgement for the value of humanity in numerous regards. While the final vestiges of an old ethos still exist in some areas of culture, such as the way humans are deemed intrinsically superior to replicants, humans said to have souls, and replicants said to be devoid of souls, in other ways, the traditional religious ethical axioms of the sacredness of human life have been abandoned, and a purely materialistic, amoral ethos put in place, which allows for these Frankenstein-type corporate science initiatives to artificially manufacture people to be nothing more than slaves, tools to further corporate ends. Joy, the holographic female companion, is also indicative of this dehumanizing attitude the darker side of capitalism is shown to push. She too is an artificial human, built to take the place of real humans. She is a replacement for romantic companionship, the traits across a spectrum of different personality types of women combined, womanness distilled into a toy for people to buy. This is no doubt mirrored with masculine personality types for Joy's male counterpart, Boy, an advert for which is shown briefly in passing at one point in the film. In this, there's no regard for the value of real humanity shown. It's been reduced to something systematized, ordered, neatly packaged into a commercial product. The commodification of romantic relationships seems to be standard in the Blade Runner world. And why wouldn't it be in a world where certain people, replicants that is, are so alienated and ostracized by society that a traditional romantic relationship is less available to them anyway? The Wallace Corporation is filling a gap in the market to solve a problem it is largely responsible for. Not entirely, but largely responsible. Dividing people to sell unity and companionship, pushing people apart so they yearn for company, and find it by spending money on holographic human facsimiles, for example, further enriching Wallace. Building on all this, the film approaches the concept of how capitalism directs and perhaps perverts the trajectory of human development. The replicants which cause so much societal unease and conflict are products of industry, created to serve the needs of industry. Now they're loose in society, and it's causing chaos. Furthermore, they are potentially on course to start breeding with humans, something once impossible, and if that takes place, they will literally begin becoming genetically intertwined with the species. The genetic code of humanity is set to be permanently altered, permanently incorporating capitalist-generated artifice into its makeup. Additionally, the proliferation of artificial humans like Joy may steer the direction of human development in a different way, as interactions with them differ to those with real or organic people. When Joy is introduced, she is initially shown to be submissive and obsequious, adherent to Kay's every command, able to take whatever persona suits him at any time, changing appearance and stated desires on the spot in attempt to best please Kay. How might this type of interaction change and warp human psychology with regards to companionship, romance, connected social mores, etc.? Might preferences in human traits change based on this? People mimic traits perceived as desirable while navigating the social landscape, leading to those traits propagating, and culture, civilization, and even biology evolving in one direction or another. Could all this lead to a world in which humans mimic the behaviours of machines to align with the preferences of other humans? Through sexual selection, the traits embedded in this change in human interaction may then also become incorporated into the genetic code of humanity, leading to a machinification of the race. In spite of seeming to have subjectivity and human emotions, something which should be obvious to anyone interacting with them, the replicants are treated as disposable tools at best, weapons, killers of their own kind, and servants of power, like Kay and Love, and hunted at worst, because their existence as equivalent humans, equal and mostly the same, yet different due to origin and purpose, among other things, is deemed problematic by those in power. It disrupts order, as Lieutenant Yoshi of the LAPD explains. She also explains the need to uphold the illusion that there is a wall between kinds, to keep society in order, actively upholding a system of dehumanization for all on both sides of that illusory wall. Beyond the standard remit of his job, which is already ethically corrupt enough, hunting replicants and killing them, Kay is ordered by Lieutenant Yoshi to kill an innocent person, the child of the replicant Rachel, to maintain some social order in a society which is already broken, having a dysfunctional relationship with itself. In conclusion, if the logical progression of the Blade Runner world continues, what lies ahead is an existence where everything has been entirely replaced by industry-generated artifice, a simulacrum civilization with no trace of the nature which preceded it, no trace of the meaning which led to it. A Baudrillardian prophecy realised.